hopefully I won't have to make another video of these lot in 3 months' time. Alan Savage came out saying, the stakeholders and fans should be really happy tonight that Cali Thistle are not going into administration. Hopefully, for their sake, they will be able to represent the Highlands with pride and not have to worry about losing their club anymore. And I don't have to worry about making another video on them. Hopefully this doesn't become a trilogy or something akin to those superhero cinematic universes.
Well, it's Groundhog Day. Again?
At this rate, I might as well rebrand my channel to Inverness Caledonian Thistle Updates. I thought that with Alan Savage in charge and his messages of hope, I would not be having to talk about them for a while. Well, unfortunately, it seems the ride never ends for Inverness, as they are once again a club on the brink. They haven't got an investor or new owner in, Scott Gardner is still lingering about, Duncan Ferguson is still at the club but working for free, Panos Thomas has left and crowdfunders have been set up in a failed attempt to stop the club from going into administration. Thankfully, I have still been saving stuff for the past month and a bit since the last video, just in case anything went wrong again. So in what is now a part 3 of the Inverness Caledonian Thistle saga, if you want to get up to speed, I will be making a playlist with these videos because clearly it's needed at this point. Let's look into the events that have been happening at our favourite Highland football club since the last video. We might as well start with what has been happening on the pitch. After the release of the last video, Inverness won their next 2 games against Queen of the South and Stirling Albion, which made me wonder if the video was put on in the changing room before a game as a source of motivation. If that is the case, first of all, hello Duncan. Secondly, I should make more videos on Raith Rovers. We'd be unbeatable. This would then be followed by a 2-0 draw with Alloa after being 2-0 up with 20 minutes to go, a 1-0 draw with Cove, a 0-0 draw with Stenosmere, a 1-0 loss to Arbroath, a loss on penalties to Championship side Livingston. By the way, please change the graphic, that definitely reads as something else at first glance. And a 1-0 win against Annan Athletic. I guess my videos can only be used as motivation for a certain amount of time. Clearly, things aren't going well on the pitch, with fans still calling for Duncan Ferguson to be sacked, or what would be in this case to resign since there's no compensation fee. So, the situation on the pitch hasn't changed much, aside from a couple of wins to get fans' hopes up. Just for a little bit before bringing them right back down to earth, but it's off the pitch where the drama continues. First of all, we need to bring back an old favourite. Well, not really a favourite, but Scott Gardner is back trying to fleece the club. On the 6th of September, it came out that Gardner wanted £70,000 paid back to him as a result of previous loans he had given to the club. Someone who wasn't very happy about this was Alan Savage. Savage revealed that the £70,000 was split with £50,000 owed to the concert company that Gardner had set up and £20,000 being personal loans. Savage came out against this saying, "It may be that the club were carrying out work for the concert company and Gardner is getting paid by the club whilst doing work for the concert company. I don't know the legalities of that, but why should the club pay for the concert company? It doesn't make sense whatsoever. The club wasn't a shareholder in the concert company, but evidently it lost about £950,000 that wasn't reported with the liquidator. Gardner has opened a Pandora's box. There are a load of implications of it, and we will go through the detail meticulously to put up a robust defence." It was also reported that Scott Gardner was being paid £140,000 and is wanting a severance payment, meaning he would be getting about £200,000. Savage responded to this by saying, "In my eyes, he's been incompetent, yet he's putting the club on the brink of administration. He's someone who failed on so many fronts at this club." Savage, during this time, however, was in the middle of a massive firefighting operation. Figuratively, of course, the Caledonian Stadium hasn't been burned down in some insurance fraud scheme. Yet. There are multiple revenue avenues that the club could be a part of, but haven't come to fruition, one of which being the Inverness and Cromarty Firth Green Freeport. It is said that the reason for this is due to the club's inability to provide the required information during the application period, despite receiving multiple reminders over a period of several months. The other potential revenue stream has been the battery farm, which is still in limbo right now with the initial application being denied and is currently under appeal to the Scottish Government. The issue they are facing with it right now is the time it takes to go through these processes, as time is something they are very much running out of. On the 1st of October, it was revealed that they were in contact with a company called BDO. What does this company do, you may ask? Well, they are administrators, and they have experience dealing with football clubs that are in financial trouble, with them being involved in the Hearts administration case, which saw the clubs survive thanks to the fans, Dunfermline, which again saw fans rally together to save the club, and Rangers, which, let's get back to Inverness, shall we? Inverness entered the pre-administration stage on the 27th of September under the plan named Operation Kessock, meaning that the club are looking at what measures they can take before administrators are brought in. Clubs obviously want to avoid this, as it would mean a 15-point deduction for the current season, which, looking at their current situation, would almost certainly mean relegation to League 2, a 5-point deduction for the following season, and a licence review, meaning if they get their professional licence revoked, they would be kicked out of the SPFL. The pre-administration period is supposed to last between 1 to 2 weeks, and is at this point where what the club needed was announced. £200,000 by October 16th. This led to a club statement where Panos Thomas updated fans on what the situation was like behind the scenes. It starts off talking about the situation in August and September, including mentions of the 2023 account showing the £600,000 loss that was made, the negotiations involving Ketan Makwana, Alan Savage coming back, stuff that was covered in the last video. The statement does go into more detail into the financial appraisal, detailing some creditors and where issues lie. During the 23-24 season, the club made a loss of £1.2 million, which, for a championship club that hadn't been relegated from the Premiership the previous season, is mental. And that they are predicting similar loss-making levels for this season. The club owes £600,000 to trade creditors and HMRC, with £125,000 owed to kit suppliers Puma, which they have to pay each year as part of a 4-year contract. They also have a provision against litigation valued at over £170,000, which is being put against them by a former CEO. And I wonder who that could be. They again talk about the cash flow issues where they need £200,000 by the end of October, the issues surrounding the battery farm, and the leasing of the land surrounding the stadium. They also mention they have had talks with the SPFL, where the body said they were already aware of the issues facing them, and with BDO administrators. The most important part of the statement is the section around what the next steps are to help save the club. It mentions how Alan Savage has been keeping the club afloat with personal funding, but he can't do this for much longer, and that a solution needs to be found. They mention that debt by May 2025 is set to be between £1.4 and £1.6 million, and a balance sheet that reads at negative £3.8 million at the same time. This is followed with the immediate plans of the board. The first being a Save ICT crowdfunding campaign, set up by the club itself with the goal of raising £200,000 by October 16th, asking fans to email the board for ways to raise money, and that the club would be holding an open meeting with shareholders and fans on the 7th of October. So, the club appears to have a plan. Cost cutting is of course being implemented, with Duncan Ferguson working for free, which is good of him, I guess, and that fans are being encouraged to help the club out. Another prospective buyer has come out with Mike Edwards claiming to have made 2 attempts to invest in the club, but seeing as he wants to move the club's training to Kelty, I don't think he'll be welcomed by fans. So the club appears to have a plan and are looking to go in the right direction. That was fine for not even 24 hours, as following the previous statement, another one was released, with it being announced Panos Thomas had left the club. This wasn't down to anything malicious or jumping ship like other previous board members, this was down to family reasons, so I'll let him off. In the statement, it was also announced that the GoFundMe had been set up and again encouraged people to help support the club. Another news piece would later come out the same day about a potential investor looking to negotiate a deal. Ketan Makwana. Why do I have to talk about him again? Ketan, go away. You're not getting to buy the club. Nobody wants you here. Just give it up, please. Before the open night, Alan Savage revealed that there was international interest when it came to investment for the club, with businessmen from Denmark, the United Arab Emirates, and the United States of America having supposed interest in the club. But what was revealed during the open night brought great concern. As mentioned, administrators seemed likely if the £200,000 target hadn't been met, along with getting new investors or a buyer, and the total owed to directors had also increased to £3.42 million. Now for the big stuff with that man Scott Gardner.
Get ready, everybody. He's about to do something stupid.
First, we have the kit deal with Puma, which sees the club pay the sportswear brand £125,000, which, to put it into simple terms, is unsustainable. To pay that off through merchandising alone, they would need to sell 2,500 shirts at £50 each, with all the money going to Puma themselves, let alone paying for all the other costs involved in the creation and selling of replica kits. Alan Savage questioned this, saying that a deal between the two should have only cost £60,000. We then have the Cammy Harper sale, which, as I mentioned previously, Carlisle got a promising young player on a free. Gardner personally emailed Carlisle to say that they didn't need to pay the compensation fee, which would have come to £80,000. For the 5 years that the club Gardner was able to run the club without being questioned, which, considering the actions he has performed, this is serious malpractice. Back during the COVID season, which ended early, he was in support of null and voiding the season, which, if that is what would have happened, would have seen the club miss out on £375,000 in prize money. How the fuck can you be so incompetent at your job? I'm angry at this man, and I'm not even an Inverness supporter. This man is a liability to any football club, no matter what level, and people like this should be blacklisted from the sport. Is there any way that he can be placed behind bars for this? He has even decided to come out to the Daily Mail, quite fitting seeing how they're nicknamed the Daily Fail, saying he had a plan to save the club, which would have involved giving serious consideration to a fresh rescue plan from Ketan Makwana. He also mentions suing the board of directors and others over a continued malicious campaign of defamatory and untrue statements, which, if that's the case, go ahead. We all know what you have done. Stuart Finlay of the Press and Journal has made a 3-part written piece solely on the complete farce that has been Scott Gardner's time at Inverness, which I highly recommend giving a read. But in short, we see how Gardner failed to take on board any criticism, had 28,000 unread emails, the Kelty training plan, his poor relationship with fans and staff, showing players 3D models of hotels he was planning instead of letting them get on with training, messing about with injured players' contracts, failed deals with multiple businesses, the concert business, the battery farm, failure to become a part of the Freeport, Ketan fucking Makwana. Scott Gardner, you are a parasite. You have been hounded out at every club and now we all see why. You have effectively killed a club which before you took over considered themselves to be the pride of the Highlands. Now they look to be dead in the water, and it is through your incompetence as a CEO. I wouldn't even want you at Dunfermline. That's how bad you are. In the nicest way possible, get to Where was I? Oh yeah. Alan Savage would go on to talk about how a controlled administration could be the best way forward with a chance to restructure and rebuild the club. With administration, Savage believes the club would be forced to go part-time, which would see a reduction in costs for player wages, but would make it easier for players to come through the academy, along with getting players from other Highland clubs who are able to make that jump up to the SPFL. Of course, there is a downside of club staff losing jobs and suppliers. Typically, local businesses will lose out, but Savage did admit there will be some players who will move on, which we would try to mitigate at Orion, Savage's recruitment company, and we would try to find people jobs. We will try and look after some of the suppliers who may suffer. We are a community club at heart. We want to do the right things. We are in a mess due to 5 years of neglect and we have to face up to that. Savage also came out saying administration would cost £400,000 to £500,000 and that he'd be willing to pay about £350,000 to support the club through the period, once again showing his commitment to the club. On the 15th of October, the day before the deadline for administration, Scott Young, who became the interim chairman after the departure of Panos Thomas, put out a statement on the club's Twitter account, stating, "On behalf of the club, I would like to thank all those who have donated to our GoFundMe page. This morning we were sitting at just over £80,000, which is a fantastic effort from you all. I would just like to clarify that should we go into administration, all funds raised will be used to fund the club's expenses in the administration process and would not be expended on professional fees. There are no penalties for not reaching our target goal, and indeed the first payments have arrived at the club over the weekend. On the 16th of October, it was revealed that the club had found a mystery Highland-based investor who was willing to make a bid of £1.2 million in exchange for 50.45% of the club, as long as the club did not go into administration, along with guarantees over the club's £3 million worth of debt. It was also revealed that they had held talks with Anders Holch Poulsen, the Faroese businessman who owns ASOS, FC Midtjylland, and the largest concentration of land in Scotland held by any one person. But the debts the club owed, just ignore that Poulsen is worth £7 billion, along with concerns over a potential conflict of interest in the event of Inverness qualifying for Europe due to his ownership of Midtjylland, have seen a potential takeover deal stall. But with all this, it was announced that Inverness would hold an emergency board meeting on the 17th of October. After this meeting, we got another club announcement saying, the board can confirm that the time for any interested parties to offer for the club has come and gone. We are currently looking at our position and will make an announcement in the coming days. So, Inverness aren't in administration. Yet. But what about the mystery investor? Well, the mystery investor did reveal himself to be David Anderson, who is from Moray and is a specialist in the IT and finance sector. Boy, do they need some expertise in the finance sector. Who was assisted by Gordon Ritchie of GRM Marketing and Don Lawson, who is also from Inverness. Gordon Ritchie did say to the press after the meeting that the board members discussed the options for the club. It was a good, positive meeting. Time is a problem, but my investor wants to make sure he knows what he is going to step into. With all this said and done, Inverness would hold up for another few days, but in the meantime, the Inverness Caledonian Thistle Supporters Trust held an open meeting on the 18th of October where they discussed the financial situation the club finds itself in. The club, however, would put out another statement on the 18th of October, saying, whilst the deal was not reached, negotiations on a purchase ended amicably and DA Capital are welcome back to the table once the club's financial situation is under control. The board will make a further statement in due course. To be fair, I am questioning if DA Capital have the capital to take over Inverness, seeing as according to their balance sheet from the 31st of December 2023, they have capital and reserves of £246. But don't worry, his other companies that he is a director of are listed as being Swish Services, who have £24,500 worth of debt, and AP Systems Holdings, who have capital and reserves of £43,220. Good thing that never went through then. Later on in the day, however, an Inverness Courier article came out with reports a 6-member consortium of Highland-based businessmen were looking at putting an offer in by the 21st. Don Lawson being the frontman. Lawson has experience of being a director at a football club with Ross County. He said in his interview with the local paper, there is a consortium in deep discussions as we speak. There is a potential bid going to be on that table by first thing Monday morning. These guys don't want the club to go into administration and have the support of one or two significant other names. He does also mention it is a consortium of large shareholders, some of whom are ex-directors. I swear to God if Scott Gardner's name is involved. All of this ultimately didn't matter, as on the evening of the 18th of October, Inverness Caledonian Thistle announced that a notice of intention to appoint administrators had been filed and administration would begin on Monday or Tuesday. So, what does administration mean for Inverness? On the pitch, they will be given a 15-point deduction, putting them bottom on -3 points. Next season, should they escape administration, they'll be starting on -5 points. It likely means there will be an exodus of players and staff as cost-cutting measures along with trying to get deals done with creditors to help reduce the debt. When it comes to teams entering administration, in the 21st century we've had 13 other teams enter the same circumstances Inverness currently find themselves in. Queen's Park in 2000, which saw the club sell Hampden to the SFA and ultimately survived. Greenock Morton in 2001 were taken over by a consortium but dropped to the 3rd division. Now League 2, again survived. Clydebank and Airdrie in 2002. Airdrie went under, but a new Airdrie was set up and bought Clydebank's licence. More information in this video I made a while back. Motherwell and Dundee in 2004 both survived. Livingston in 2005 demoted to the 3rd Division, survived. Gretna in 2008 went under, again another previous video if you want to learn more. Livingston again in 2009, same as 2005 with their demotion to the 3rd Division and again survived. Dundee in 2011, 25 points deduction, which saw them get relegated to the 1st Division, but again survived. Rangers in 2012, Rangers died and reformed in the 3rd Division. Dunfermline in 2012, 10-point deduction, dropped down to the 2nd Division, but survived. And finally, Hearts, who went into administration in 2013 after the departure of Vladimir Romanov, again another subject of a previous video, deducted 15 points and were relegated to the Championship, but were bought up by fans and survived. So, with 4 of 13 going under, it means that Inverness has a 30% chance of going out of business. Hopefully, new buyers are found, whether it's a new consortium or a fan-led takeover. A club, no matter how big or small, represents a community, and having that taken away from them is something that should be avoided at all costs. I had hopes after the last video that Inverness would be on the up. It seems I have jinxed them, but this time I really mean it. Please don't go under. In the likely event of a 4th video, I want it to be them being saved from going under. They could be in the Highland League for all I, and of course Inverness, fans care about. Cali fans just want a club to support, just like the rest of us do. That's all for this video, and of course I hope you enjoyed. Probably not the right term given the subject matter, but you know what I mean. Do you believe Cali will survive? Personally, I think they will, but seeing my rate of jinxing them, I'd probably sent them into liquidation now. Of course, liking, sharing and subscribing are all appreciated, and I will see you in the next video, which won't be Inverness related, don't worry. Bye.